the CIPAA SDGs program. Collective intelligence is a system of decision-making that optimizes collective outcomes. Optimizing collective outcomes includes increasing funding for government programs, increasing impact for donors, increasing returns and decreasing risk for impact investors, increasing funding for nonprofit partners and revenue of for-profit partners, and increasing the capacity of social innovators and entrepreneurs to innovate. Using collective intelligence, we can align cooperation between government, local businesses, donors, and others so it can be targeted at improving these outcomes. And where the dollar value of that cooperation is positive, we can use collective intelligence to increase the size of the cooperation until it potentially pays for solving the problem. Using this approach, we've designed the collective intelligence-based program to accelerate achievement of the Sustainable Development Goals, or CIPAA SDGs. This is a 10-phase program that targets large-scale economic development and other impacts globally, while requiring only tax credits from the governments of the CARICOM region where the pilots will be launched. The program will grant these tax credits to local businesses through impact bonds in return for the businesses achieving the impact, like job creation, that the bond commits them to. The program will create value chains that support the success of local businesses by assuring demand for local products and services. This assurance of demand will reduce risk for investors, and the impact bonds can be increased until projected returns for investors are high enough above market averages to incentivize as much investment as needed. Value chains can be designed to significantly increase impact on agricultural livelihoods or on virtually any other sustainable development goal. As an example, we've designed a conceptual pilot in South Sudan focused on job creation. In South Sudan, NGOs are currently trying to create jobs by running tailored training programs. But unfortunately, there's no clothing industry to hire the people they train. Virtually all clothing is imported, and though cotton is a big crop, virtually all of it is exported. However, with the uniforms needed for school children each year in South Sudan, there may be the potential to create as many as 10,000 to 12,000 tailoring jobs if all the uniforms weren't imported. This is about a 1,000-fold increase over the few dozen tailors that are currently trained and that for the most part don't get jobs. So lots of cotton being exported on one side of the value chain, lots of clothes being worn on the other, and few jobs in between. To fix this broken value chain, we define a series of businesses. The first business will distribute school uniforms. To guarantee sales by undercutting imports, the business might offer stores that sell school uniforms a 50% discount for the first year in return for signing up to buy those uniforms for the next 5 years. We can then define a business to train the tailors, a business to manufacture the uniforms and hire the tailors, a business to weave the cloth from local cotton, and a business to source the cotton from local growers for the same 5-year period. By themselves, all of these businesses would almost certainly fail. Together, they can reliably succeed. All these businesses are for-profit and funded by private investment, so the government or donors might fund only perhaps 20% of a program to incentivize this investment, thereby multiplying their impact per dollar by 5 times. And using a pay-for-success approach in which the donor or government commits to reimbursing each program through impact bonds after that program achieves its impact, we can increase the probability of program success from, in some cases, 10% to 100% per dollar spent, thereby multiplying the impact of the funds by a further 10 times. The result is a total increase in impact per government program dollar of up to 5 times multiplied by 10 times, that is 50 times. This amazing multiplication of impact doesn't require any more funding. All it requires is systematically leveraging cooperation through value chains. We've also redesigned these impact bonds so they can not only be paid by donors or governments through grants of cash, but also by governments through grants of tax credits. Like Uber coordinates the interaction between taxi drivers, the dispatcher, and passengers, Our social impact marketplace then coordinates that cooperation between the participants in launching the value chain. Phase 1 of the CIPAA SDGs program will improve farmer livelihoods by deploying agricultural value chains that leverage local cooperation to increase local demand for local agricultural produce. Phase 1 will begin with an initial $2 million donor-funded pilot that will deploy a value chain of local agricultural and related businesses in Antigua and Barbuda. This will be followed by a $2 million donor-funded pilot in each of the remaining 14 CARICOM member states for a total of $30 million, where each value chain can be replicated to all 15 CARICOM countries. The tax credits proposed to be provided to the program by each government through impact bonds create the potential for well above market returns for investors. So with the proven success of the value chains in the pilot nations, investors then have strong incentive to invest in replicating the value chains in all other CARICOM member states as well. By designing value chains that can be replicated across the CARICOM region, so pilots need only be performed once, Phase 1 leverages regional cooperation to increase its impact on farmer livelihoods in each CARICOM member state. Because of this cooperation, donors which support Phase 1 of the program in any CARICOM nation will help support the program for all CARICOM nations. By designing this platform and the program so they can be reused in Africa, Asia, and elsewhere globally to deploy value chains that improve farmer livelihoods in those regions as well, Phase 1 gives a much broader range of donors incentive to support the program in the CARICOM region, since support of Phase 1 of the program in any CARICOM nation will help support the program for all nations globally. This cooperation can thereby increase donor funding for the program within the CARICOM region. As a result, more donors and governments in this and other regions are incentivized to cooperate in supporting the program. To disseminate knowledge of these benefits, we're working with the University of the West Indies to launch a Center for Collective Intelligence in the Caribbean, where the pilot of the CIPAA SDGs program will be launched. Understanding collective intelligence isn't necessary to participate in the program, only for those wishing to design value chains for collective intelligence. The CC4CI will also educate on the use of the principles of collective intelligence to design and engineer products and services with significantly increased capacity for impact. This not-for-profit program will be managed by a consortium of stakeholders and by a steering committee that will provide budgetary and other oversight. The prospective members include the participating governments, the Nobia Foundation, participating bilateral and multilateral donor organizations, and private donor foundations. Thanks for watching.